Ciao cari amici e benvenuti a Missionali, dove studiamo la Bibbia, viviamo di essa e la condividiamo con il mondo. Mi chiamo Roberto e oggi vedremo che studiare la Bibbia in italiano è veramente una benedizione meravigliosa. Hello dear friends and welcome to Missionali, where we study the Bible, we live it, and we share it with the world. My name is Roberto, and today we will see just what an amazing blessing it is to study the Bible in Italian. You're going to really enjoy this, so stay with me. Now, before we get into this, let's learn just a little bit about Italy. As we all know, it is shaped like a boot and it is part of Southern Europe. It is surrounded by 5 seas: the Adriatic, Ionian, Tyrrhenian, Ligurian, and the Mediterranean. And it's made up of 20 regions, 18 on the main continent and 2 large islands, Sicily and Sardinia. Italian is the national language, but according to Operation World, there are actually 42 spoken dialects in the country. In fact, the Italian language itself is actually the dialect of Tuscany. Latin was the original spoken language in the country, but 2 famous writers in particular contributed to the Tuscan dialect becoming the mainstream language. The first was Dante Alighieri, most known for his popular work La Divina Commedia, or the Divine Comedy, in the 13th century. And second, the Italian poet and author Alessandro Manzoni in his famous work I Promessi Sposi, or The Betrothed, and his first edition came out in 1827. Now obviously there were others who contributed to the influence of the language, but these 2 in particular were especially prominent. Italian was made the official language in 1861 during the unification of the country. However, even today, you still hear many dialects spoken throughout the country: Venetian, Roman, and Sicilian, just to name a few. Regarding religion, the country is dominated by Roman Catholicism, which was the state religion until 1984, although now it is mostly cultural, as it's estimated that at most 15%, but as low as 3%, faithfully practice Catholicism. Evangelical Protestantism makes up less than 1% of the country, Islam about 2.6%, Buddhism less than 0.5%, and Judaism less than 0.1%, just to name a few. And unfortunately, and this really breaks my heart, atheism and secularism are increasingly becoming more and more prevalent throughout the country, especially among the youth. Let's look at how the Bible came to Italy. There were many people involved, but allow me to give you just a few highlights. It was probably in the 13th century that the first versions of Jerome's Latin Vulgate, which was written in the 4th century, began to appear in the vernacular dialects of Italian. In August of 1471, the first edition of the Bible was published in Venice. In the early 17th century, the only Bible to be translated into Italian was that of the Protestant Giovanni Diodati, which was published in Geneva. Now, he was the first to translate the Bible into Italian directly from the Greek and Hebrew texts. His work was later updated in 1924 and 1991. In 2006, La Nuova Riveduta, the New Revised, was published. And by the way, this is the one that I read from. And finally, in honor of the 500th anniversary of the Reformation, a new Italian Bible is planned for the year 2023, which will be called La Bibbia della Riforma, the Reformed Bible. Now, the New Testament portion of this is already available at Amazon if you're interested. I cannot sing, nor do I even pretend to know how to sing, but when I read the scriptures in Italian, I feel like I'm actually singing to the Lord. It brings me an amazing amount of satisfaction when I read the Lord's words in Italian, and hopefully you will learn to feel the same too. Now, let's actually get into some verses and look at how Italian uses certain words and word order versus its English counterpart. I have 3 in particular that I'd like to share. The first one is Matthew 11, verse 30. Poiché il mio giogo è dolce e il mio carico è leggero. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. Instead of the word easy, Jesus' yoke is described as dolce, sweet. Our Lord's yoke, walking with Him, is easy compared to following a bunch of legalistic rules and regulations found in traditional religion. In fact, the experience of being in a relationship with Jesus, being yoked with Him as we go about our daily lives, is beautifully described in Italian as being sweet. Now, this description brings a more pleasant and fuller relationship to mind than the adjective easy, in my humble opinion. So now let's look at the next one, Proverbs 3, verse 5. Confida nel Signore con tutto il cuore e non ti appoggiare sul tuo discernimento. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and do not lean on your own understanding. The word confida can be translated confide, which brings to mind a very intimate and private action, whereas trust can sound just a little bit more general in my humble opinion. When I confide something to someone, I feel like I'm sharing something very close to my heart, which puts me in a vulnerable position. And in essence, I'm counting on that person to keep this sensitive information to themselves. Know for a fact, dear friends, that you can confide and trust everything you have to the Lord. Now, let's look at the very last one, Psalm 23, verse 1. Il Signore è il mio pastore, nulla mi manca. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. Let's focus on the last part of this verse to see an interesting point regarding word order. In English, the first word is I, which is where the emphasis is located. In other words, I am not in need of anything when the Lord is my shepherd. He provides for all of my needs. In Italian, the first word is nulla, which means nothing. So a literal translation would be, nothing is lacking for me. Now, it sounds just a bit more poetic and emphasizes that there is nothing that I need because my Lord provides all that is necessary for me. I know it's simply another way of just saying the same thing, but it sounds just a bit more unselfish, if you will. Let me end with La Benedizione Aaronitica, the Aaronic blessing found in number 6, verses 24 to 26. Il Signore ti benedica e ti protegga. Il Signore faccia risplendere il suo volto su di te e ti sia propizio. Il Signore rivolga verso di te il suo volto e ti dia la pace. Amen. Il Signore vi benedica, cari amici, e Dio volendo vi vedrò nel prossimo video.